On the line right now is Hank Brown, who just recently announced his retirement right around the turn of the year, right around that last week of the year 2013. What year did you start? When was the first time you were ever on the radio, Hank?
Well, the very first time, Bill, was January 21st, 1957.
So 57 to 2013. That's pretty darn good.
Right. And the funniest part was I came up here. I was going to school in Philadelphia area. I went to the Jesuit Academy in Philadelphia, which is a blue ribbon school. It's a 5-hour test to get into the school.
Wow.
And when I left there, I was a basketball and a football player, and I thought I was going to go to Notre Dame because they came up to see me, but they wanted their quarterbacks to be 6'4" or better.
Wow.
And I was just about 6'1". But since that time, I'm shrinking like crazy. I'm just about 6 foot right now. But the funniest part is that when they came down, he told me that. He said to me, I really would like you do 2 sports. And I said, I'd love that. And we were the first school in the Catholic League in Philadelphia. There were 14 Catholic schools. And we were the second largest. We had over 8,000 boys, no girls.
Wow. Right.
And,
That's
there were 11 girls' schools, and their capacity was about 7 to 7,500. So the Catholic League played in their own league, and then they would play the winner of the public league. So the day he came down, it was a couple days before, and we were the first team in the Catholic League in the Pennsylvania area to go to the T formation. And the best part of all, there was a guy who had broken his leg. He was all pro for 5 years, and he was born in the city of Philadelphia, but left when he was about 9 to go. His father was a big shot at General Electric. And the funniest part was the priest called me, says, Hank, he says, I want you here during the summer for at least 2 weeks. You can go home at night. He says, but I've got someone who's going to teach you the T formation. I said, okay, that'd be great. And the following day, I went up to the school, and I saw this guy running around the track with a sweatsuit on. He was stocky, short. I figured he's only about 5'10", 5'9". And all of a sudden, he got close, and I knew who it was. And he says, you're Hank. He said, I've been watching your films. He says, being you're such a basketball player, he says, the T formation's made for you because you have your back to them. It's not like the single wing of power play. He says, you're going to excel. You're going to have a great year. And I laughed at him. I says, thank you. He says, you didn't ask me who I am. I says, I know who you are. He says, you know who I am? I says, I certainly do. I says, you're the all-pro quarterback of the Chicago Bears. You're Sid Luckman.
Wow.
And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he says, you know, your coach told me. He says, like, you're on the field or the court. He says, you're like a coach. He says, I'm impressed. That's what he said to me. I'm impressed.
Well, that's pretty wild.
So anyhow, we went that year, and the 4 years I was there at the academy with the Jesuits, our record was 49-0. We won all city championship, and then
Wow.
they sent us up to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to beat their champion, Bishop McDevitt. So I've been at the right time in the right place. Now, when did I take the interest to be a broadcaster? I was about 7 years old. My parents are right from Ireland, and my father was a policeman, walked the beat for 37 years. And my mother, Bridget Ann, would say to me, did you hear what I said, Hank? I won't repeat me cabbage. I won't chew it twice. Do you hear me, boy? I said, yes, I hear you, Mom. Never argue with your mother. So What happened, there was a big parade in Philadelphia, the Mummers Day Parade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the greatest parades in the world. It's January 1st. And it goes, they usually pull between 3.5 to 4 million people. They come from all over just to see this parade. The outfits are gorgeous. The parade is fantastic. You'd go crazy, Bill. You'd be doing what they call the Mummers Strut. You'd be running up and down the street with it. But I was 7, and there was a redhead guy standing across the street from me, about maybe 30 feet across the street in the middle of in a little box there, and he had 2 engineers with earphones on, and he was about 6'8", and he had bright red hair. And all I could think of, honest to gosh, all I could think of was Ishkabibble. Remember Ishkabibble?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought of Ishkabibble. And I'm looking at him, And he's interviewing these people, and he came across the street, and he said to me, "Hey, Carrot Top." I said, "Hi." I had red hair.
Yeah.
So he picked me right out. He says, "I'd like to ask you a couple of questions." I said, "Okay, so what do you think the Mother's Day parade is?" I think it's the greatest parade in the world. He said, "What do you think of Billy Penn?" I says, "He's on top of our city hall." I said, "I love him." And he says, "Where do you go to school?" I says, "Most Blessed Sacrament School for Irish Boys." In Philadelphia, it was something to go to that school.
Yeah.
But here's the big thing. He said to me, "What do you think you want to do when you get older?" I said, "I think I'd like to be a professional athlete." He says, "What sport?" I says, "I like them all. Whatever one I could make, that's the one I want to get into." And he interviewed somebody else. And that night, I couldn't stop thinking of him. I said, "That's what I'd like to do. What he's doing."
So that was the change for you. And think about when radio used to pay, Hank. Those days are gone. It's like
Oh, yeah.
whoa.
But Bill, this is the punch. The next day, I took my mother's tea strainer, and I didn't know that radio worked by electricity. I was 7 years old.
Sure.
But I saw the cord, so I took a piece of string and I tied it to the bottom of the tea strainer. And my mother was coming down the steps, and I'm running up the steps after, and she says, what do you want, lad?" I says, "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, "I'm broadcasting live and direct from Broad Street here in Philadelphia in front of City Hall." And I said, "This woman here has a funny-sounding voice." I says, "What is your name?" She says, "Bridget Ann Mahoney Brown. What is wrong with you, lad?" And I says, "She's running away, and I'm chasing her up the steps." And my mother told my father, the first word she said when he came in, she says, "He's smart with the books, but," she says, "I don't think he's playing with a full deck." He chased me with a tea strainer. But that was my first experience.
So really your first broadcast right there. That was your first one at
7 years old.
7 years. All right, hold tight, Hank. I got to break quickly, and we'll come right back here. Hank Brown made his official retirement right at the first of the year, or just before that. We'll chat a little more and talk about some of the stuff that he's doing when it comes to boxing. Hank Brown, speaking of Little Falls, Little Falls was always your town, Hank.
Yes, it is.
Forever, right?
Right. When I came here from Philadelphia, my experience started off like you couldn't believe it. I flew from Philadelphia, I flew into Newark, New Jersey to go up to Utica, New York. And I had taken an audition at the school, and when I was at the school, I went to Cambridge School of Broadcasting, which belongs to Fordham University. It's like comparable to Newhouse. And the funniest part, I got on the plane. It was the smallest airplane I was ever on. It was Mohawk Airlines, and the girl was extremely attractive. And I looked at her, and I says, "How long will it take us to get to Utica?" And she said, 56 minutes. I says, 56 minutes. And I never saw the word Oneida, so I thought it was Oneida.
Right.
And she corrected me. She says, "No, we're very proud." She says, "I make my home in Oneida." She says, "You ever go to Oneida?" I said, "No, it's the first time upstate New York." So there's only 3 people on the plane, and we're flying up, and she comes over to me, and she said, "Hank Brown?" I said, "Yes." She says, "I don't like to warn you." She says, "But you look so nice." She said, "You got a cashmere top coat on, a blue suit, and a blue and white tie." She says, "Do you have any heavy winter gear or anything?" I says, "No, I haven't." And she says, "Well, I'm going to break bad news to you. You're flying into Oneida County Airport. It's in the boondocks." That's what she told me. And she said, "It's 55 degrees below zero Fahrenheit.
Wow.
It's 79 degrees with the wind chill, but 55 below zero." Now, you flew into Oneida County Airport.
Yes, I have.
It's a distance of what, maybe 40 yards.
Yeah.
Walked to a little place where they had coffee and tea. Well, I walked from there, picked up my luggage, and there were 2 guys waiting for me to pick me up, take me down to Little Falls, New York. Well, when I walked, my face felt like it was getting wet. And it was, at that point, the snow was very light, but my face felt funny. And I heard Andrew just say he's always had a funny face, huh? But anyhow, when I got in there, I had to go find a place to stay.
Yep.
And they took me to this lady's place, Flossie Aney. It was a rooming house. I figured, well, I'll have to stay there for a couple of days, so I find an apartment. and it was the same day my daughter, Colleen Ann, was being christened, our first baby. So I had to leave at 6:30 to get over to Newark, New Jersey, and the whole bit. And that's why I said to myself, why? In the morning, that morning I was shaving, Bill, and my nose was peeling.
Wow. So you had
My
frostbite.
ears were peeling.
Wow.
And my lips were all like a light purple. I thought, oh, my God. And the woman says, you got frostbite, lad.
Yeah. Wow.
Anyhow, that's how I started my career up in Little Falls, New York.
Cold way to start. And then you were on IBX here for what, like 13?
I thought I was on IBX maybe 12 to 13, maybe about 12 to 14 years, yeah.
And
at that time, the biggest surprise was IBX has always been, at that point, was always a news station and very, very aristocratic audience. And when I went there, I just said to myself, I'm going to play the best music. So I had Nat King Cole, Sinatra, the Carpenters, Connie France, everything, the good stuff.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Fred Bowen was the boss man then, and Ed Slazarczyk was in the morning with me, and we had a good group. But anyhow, the best part was I got to the point where I started to realize what I was doing, that I really wanted to have them consider me an honor, that I would be able to sit at their breakfast table in the morning. And I started to march around the breakfast table, which I stole from a guy out of WLS Chicago. And that was so successful, I was getting cards every day to march my son around the table. He's got a birthday, da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And it was successful.
Pretty awesome. Andrew has a
Hank, we had a listener call up and ask what you think about the rating of Herkimer and it being one of the most dangerous places to live.
Yeah, did you see that? That was interesting, huh?
Well, I'll be heard on your show. I check you in the morning, Bill. Make sure you're alive.
Good man. I appreciate that.
Alive or in line?
And I'll tell you, your news girl is very good.
She is good. Yes.
I know I like her better than you, Bill. I'll be honest with you. I like it. And by the way, how come you goofed up? You didn't know the difference between a boy and a girl.
That is, well, I'm not.
I want to help you because you need help. Let me tell you what I'm going to help you.
You may be right.
Girls wear pink booties. Boys wear blue.
Oh, no. Here we go.
Bill, a priest pulled a trick on me one time. When we got married, 13 months later, we had a little girl, Colleen Ann. 10 months later, we had another little girl called Kathleen Ann. Then 9 months later, we had another little girl called Celine Ann. So the priest called me on the phone, and he says, can't you put a handle on the cup? He said, why can't you make boys? And guess what my answer was? I says, Father, parochial school was better than 6,000 boys in that school.
I didn't know Father Sean was doing was back then.
Does sound like him.
Yeah. Listen, just quickly, and I have to break for news. Hank, retirement for you doesn't mean it's an end to all the stuff that you do in boxing. I mean, you're well known in that.
I'm leaving. Yep. I have 2 boxing matches in January, 28th and 30th, I believe. I'm going to. I have one in Boston and one in Philadelphia for Mavis, Joe Frazier's son. And then I was offered, when I was doing the things down in Herkimer, I was there for 6 years, Wally. And when I was there, Metro Media heard me doing a basketball game between Mohawk and Frankfurt, called me up, and they came over to meet me. And I did New England for Metro Media. I did Holy Cross, Brown, Providence, Dartmouth.
Wow.
It was a good run.
Yeah.
In fact, they're still looking for you in Providence for the Cows. Yeah. Get them back.
There's much that I've taken from Providence.
Yes, you have.
Yeah, good and bad. Listen, Hank, you are legendary, and it was a big deal when I saw that you were retiring, and I just wanted to wish you the best, and I know you'll continue to shine.
I hope so, and if I do, I'll say, Bill Keeler didn't teach me that trick. Have a good day, Billy.
All right, Hank. Thanks so much.
Take care, buddy. God bless you.
There he is, legendary Hank Brown.